Most people believe sleep is a passive state. You close your eyes, the lights go out, and your brain powers down for a rest. That is a dangerous misconception. In fact, if you view sleep as a time for your brain to simply turn off, you are missing the most critical opportunity of your day to protect your memory and sharpen your cognitive clarity. Your brain does not go dark when you sleep. It illuminates. It undergoes a massive, high-stakes emergency repair operation that is the true difference between a brain that stays sharp into your 80s and one that slowly fades into confusion. Think of your brain like a bustling, vibrant metropolitan city. During the day, it is alive with constant, frantic activity, the traffic of thoughts, the meetings of neurons, the constant production of energy, and the noise of sensory input. But in any great city, the real work, the heavy cleaning, the structural maintenance, the hauling away of trash from the streets, that doesn't happen while the city is gridlocked with traffic. It happens at night, after the workers go home, after the shops close, and when the janitorial crews finally come out to clear the debris so the city can function efficiently again the next morning. When you fail to provide your brain with the right nutritional tools before you turn out the lights, you aren't just missing out on a good night's rest. You are actively starving your brain's night shift crew. You are leaving the streets of your mind clogged with the biological debris of the day, the cognitive sludge, the oxidative stress, and the chemical remnants that, when left to accumulate, manifest as the memory lapses, the mental fog, and the persistent fatigue that so many of my patients describe as their most frightening symptoms of aging. My name is Dr. William, and on this channel, we don't rely on trends, hype, or surface-level headlines. We rely on the hard, evidence-based science of how your body and your brain actually function. Today, we are going to look at 5 specific, natural, and accessible foods that act as the essential raw materials your brain needs to perform its critical nightly repairs. But before we dive into those 5 foods, we need to address the timing. This is what I call the night shift protocol. If you struggle with persistent acid reflux, or if you have specific dietary guidelines regarding your blood sugar, please keep in mind that the ideal window for these foods is about 2 hours before you lie down. Eating too close to sleep can trigger digestion issues that will force your body to focus on your stomach rather than your brain's restoration. Always listen to your body, and if you are ever in doubt about a change to your evening routine, a quick conversation with your primary care physician is the smartest, safest path forward. Now, let's talk about the science of your nighttime brain. Coming in at number 5, and it is something that perhaps you haven't considered for your evening routine, is the tart cherry. Most people think of cherries as a summer treat, but in the scientific community, we view them quite differently. They are one of the most potent natural sources of a compound that governs your circadian rhythm, melatonin. Now, I am not talking about reaching for a synthetic supplement bottle. I am talking about the phytonutrients, the natural plant compounds that work in concert with your body's own chemistry to signal to your brain that it is time to shut down the daytime operations and initiate the nighttime maintenance phase. When you consume a small, purposeful serving of tart cherries before bed, and I mean a small, purposeful serving, not a bowl full, you are introducing specific anti-inflammatory agents that help modulate the temperature of your body. You see, when you sleep, your core body temperature needs to drop slightly. That cooling effect is a hardwired trigger for your brain to enter the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep. It is during these stages, specifically during slow wave sleep, that your brain begins the process of memory consolidation. This is the physiological saving of your files. Your brain takes the fleeting, chaotic memories of the day, the conversations, the sights, the tasks, and begins to encode them into long-term storage. Without the cooling and the chemical signaling that tart cherries can support, your brain stays trapped in a lighter, less efficient sleep cycle. This means your memory encoding is essentially interrupted. It's like trying to save a critical document on your computer while the power keeps flickering. You might save a few fragments here and there, but you lose the most important parts of the file. And this is why so many people feel that they have forgotten the day. Their brain literally never finished saving the data. At number 4, we move to something that offers structural support for your brain's architecture: the walnut. I often tell my patients that the walnut is one of the most intellectually honest foods in nature. It literally resembles a miniature version of the human brain, and it turns out the nutrients it provides are exactly what that brain requires to maintain its integrity. Walnuts are a powerhouse of alpha-linolenic acid, which is a specific type of omega-3 fatty acid. Your brain is roughly 60% fat. This is not a bad thing. This is a biological necessity. These fats make up the membranes of your neurons, the billions of tiny, intricate cells that communicate throughout your nervous system. As we age, those membranes can become rigid. Think of it like a tire on a car. When it's new, it's flexible, it grips the road, and it handles curves with ease. As it gets older and exposed to the elements, it hardens, it loses its grip. It becomes brittle and prone to cracking. The omega-3 fatty acids in walnuts help keep those neuronal membranes fluid and flexible. When your neurons are fluid, they can communicate faster. They can pass electrical signals back and forth with the speed and precision they had in your younger years. By snacking on a small, controlled handful of walnuts a couple of hours before bed, you are essentially providing the raw material for your brain to oil the gears of its communication network while you sleep. You are keeping the tires of your neurons from hardening. There is an additional layer here: neuroplasticity. This is the brain's incredible ability to rewire itself and build new connections. We once thought this stopped in adulthood, but we now know it continues throughout your life. However, it requires energy and healthy fats to happen. By consuming walnuts in the evening, you are giving your brain the structural material it needs to rewire connections that may have been damaged by the stress of the day. And I want to ask you something personally right now. Do you find that your mind tends to race once the lights go out? Do you lie in bed thinking about the to-do list for tomorrow or replaying the worries of today? If so, comment the word "quiet" below. I read every single comment, and knowing how many of you struggle with that nighttime mental noise helps me design better, more useful, science-based content that addresses the real problems you face. Moving on to number 3, we have a food that is often relegated to the trash bin or ignored entirely: pumpkin seeds. These tiny seeds are a massive, concentrated source of magnesium. Now, magnesium is what we call an essential mineral, meaning your body cannot produce it, and if you aren't consuming it, you are likely deficient. After the age of 60, magnesium levels often drop, partly because our diets have changed, and partly because our ability to absorb minerals from our food naturally slows down. Magnesium acts as the primary off switch for your nervous system. In my clinical experience, when patients come to me complaining about tension, muscle cramping, or that frustrating feeling of being tired but wired, low magnesium is almost always a factor. Magnesium binds to specific receptors in your brain called GABA receptors. GABA is the primary calming neurotransmitter in your body. It is the chemical that says, "Everything is okay. You can relax now." By eating a small portion of pumpkin seeds before bed, you are providing your brain with the literal keys to unlock that relaxation response. It's not about drugging yourself to sleep. It's about providing the natural chemical fuel your body uses to produce its own state of peace. And when your body is at peace, your brain is free to dedicate its energy to the cleaning and repair processes we talked about earlier. Think about the sheer number of biological reactions that magnesium supports, over 300 of them. Without adequate levels, your brain's ability to move neurotransmitters around becomes sluggish. You aren't just feeling stressed, you are physically incapable of turning off the stress response because your internal off switch has run out of battery. Pumpkin seeds are the charger for that switch. They are dense, portable, and remarkably effective when integrated into your nightly wind-down routine. Number 2 is a fruit that is often dismissed as just a garnish or a breakfast addition, but it is one of the most effective tools for sleep-related memory repair. The kiwi. The kiwi is interesting because it's not just a source of vitamins. It is a dense source of serotonin. You might know serotonin as the happy hormone. And while that's true, it's also the direct precursor to melatonin. If you want to increase your melatonin naturally, you need to provide your body with the serotonin it uses to build that melatonin. But beyond the chemistry, there is something else the kiwi does. It helps with something called sleep latency. Sleep latency is the medical term for how long it takes you to actually drift off once your head hits the pillow. For many seniors, sleep latency is a major hurdle. You get into bed, you're tired, but your brain is still buzzing, and it takes an hour, sometimes two, before you finally succumb to sleep. That is lost time for your brain's repair crew. Every minute you spend lying awake is a minute you aren't spending in the deep sleep phases where the actual work happens. Studies have suggested that the unique combination of antioxidants and serotonin precursors in kiwis helps reduce the time it takes to fall asleep. It essentially shortens the startup time for your brain's nightly maintenance mode. By helping you fall asleep faster, you are effectively extending the duration of your brain's janitorial shift. Furthermore, kiwis are loaded with antioxidants like vitamin C and vitamin E. These aren't just for immune support. They play a critical role in scavenging free radicals in the brain. Free radicals are unstable molecules that can damage brain cells. During the day, we are exposed to them through stress, pollution, and even our own metabolism. At night, if your brain doesn't have the antioxidants it needs to neutralize these, they begin to damage your delicate brain tissue. Eating a kiwi gives your brain the armor it needs to fight off that damage while you are off duty. Now, before we get to the number one food, I want to address the biggest mistake I see people make. It is the late-night glucose spike. This is the habit of eating high glycemic treats like cookies, sugary cereal, or even excessive fruit right before bed. When you do this, you spike your blood sugar. Your pancreas has to dump insulin into your bloodstream. Your body enters a state of metabolic crisis, trying to manage that sugar, rather than entering a state of repair. The result? You wake up in the middle of the night, your brain is alert, and the repair crew has gone on strike. If you want these foods to work, you have to stop the sugar spikes 2 hours before your head hits the pillow. It is a simple trade-off, but it is the most important one you can make. And finally, we arrive at number one. This is the one that most often surprises my patients because it completely contradicts the no food before bed advice we've been given for decades. Number one on our list is a source of slow-digesting protein, specifically something like cottage cheese or a small portion of plain, unflavored Greek yogurt. Now wait, before you close this video thinking about digestion, let me explain the science. Your body is in a fasted state while you sleep. You aren't eating for 8 hours. While your brain is cleaning, your muscles are also looking for ways to repair the micro damage accumulated during the day. If you go to bed completely empty, your body sometimes struggles to find the protein synthesis tools it needs to repair muscle tissue overnight. Cottage cheese is rich in a specific type of protein called casein. Casein is known as a slow-release protein. Unlike other proteins that digest quickly and then fade, casein breaks down slowly over the course of several hours. This provides a steady, drip feed of amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, to your body throughout the night. This is critical because your brain and your body are constantly repairing themselves. When you have that slow release of amino acids, your body doesn't have to break down its own muscle tissue to find the resources it needs. It creates a stable, metabolic environment that allows your brain to focus its energy on the complex tasks of memory consolidation and waste removal, rather than panic searching for resources. I had a patient, let's call him Arthur. He was 72, a retired architect from Denver. Arthur came to me because he felt like his internal hard drive was full. He couldn't remember names of people he'd known for years. He felt foggy by mid-morning, and he was convinced it was just the inevitable cost of aging. He wasn't sleeping well, he was tossing and turning, and he was snacking on sugary crackers before bed because he'd get a late-night hunger pang. Over the course of 3 months, we didn't add any heavy exercise, and we didn't add any complex or expensive supplements. We just adjusted his evening routine. We swapped those crackers for a small half-cup serving of cottage cheese with a few crushed walnuts, and we set a strict 2-hour window where he stopped all intake before bed. At his checkup 4 months later, Arthur didn't just report better sleep. He said, "Dr. William, the fog has lifted." He was back to his crossword puzzles. He felt sharper in his conversations. And the most telling sign? He was walking his dog every morning with a level of energy he hadn't felt in a decade. That isn't magic. That is simply giving your brain the tools it needs to do its job. We live in a culture that treats aging as a one-way street to decline. We are taught to expect that memory, energy, and physical independence will eventually slip through our fingers like sand. I am here to tell you, as a physician who has spent his life looking at the data, that the research does not support that resignation. The research supports action. It supports the idea that you have more control over your biology than you think. By making small, intelligent, evidence-based choices, like fueling your brain for its nightly repair shift, you are not just eating. You are investing in the quality of your life, the clarity of your mind, and the independence of your future. Now, before you go, I want to take a moment to look at how we combine these. If you are doing one of these things, that is good. But if you combine them, say a small bowl of cottage cheese topped with a few crushed walnuts and maybe a few tart cherries, you are creating a repair cocktail. You have the slow-release protein, the healthy fats for the neuron membranes, and the phytonutrients for the melatonin signal. That is the synergy I want you to aim for. It isn't about eating a mountain of food. It is about eating the right food in the right window to support the right process. I want to dive a little deeper into this idea of synergy. Think of your body as a workshop. You can have all the tools, the hammers, the saws, the drills, but if you don't have the materials to build with, the workshop is useless. In this analogy, the tart cherries and kiwis are the foremen of the workshop. They tell the crew when to start work and how to organize the site. The walnuts and pumpkin seeds are the scaffolding and the wiring, ensuring that the structures are sound and the communication lines are active. And the casein protein? That is the raw lumber. That is the material you are using to build the new, stronger versions of your cells. When you provide the foreman, the materials, and the infrastructure all at once, you aren't just hoping for repair. You are building a biological foundation. This is why a simple snack can be so much more impactful than a complex, expensive regimen. You are aligning yourself with the natural rhythm of your own biology, rather than fighting against it. Many of you have asked me, "Dr. William, is this really enough to reverse memory decline?" And my answer is always the same. We aren't talking about reversing in the sense of turning back the clock to age 20. We are talking about optimization. We are talking about taking the current hardware you have and ensuring it runs as efficiently as possible. Because when your brain is running at 80 or 90% efficiency, your quality of life is unrecognizable compared to when it is running at 40 or 50%. If today's video gave you even one piece of information that felt genuinely useful, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. We are building a community here of people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who are tired of the guesswork, tired of the hype, and ready for the real science. We publish evidence-based content every single week, and I am grateful every day that you are a part of this conversation. I want to end today with one final question for you. If you could have one thing back, one physical capability, one memory, one level of energy from your younger years, what would it be? I read every single comment, and your answers help me design the next path we take together. Does anyone else notice their memory is worse after a poor night's sleep? What is your biggest nighttime health struggle? Let me know in the comments. And remember, don't rush into making massive changes overnight. Start with one, see how your body responds, and then layer in the next. Consistency is the secret ingredient that no supplement can replicate. Start tonight, start with the timing, and notice how your morning feels. Until next time, take care of your body. It has carried you this far, and with the right information, it will carry you so much further. This is Senior Health Sessions. I'll see you in the next video.